Okay, this is our Photoshop training. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up Photoshop, and I'm going to choose File, Open. And from there, I'm going to navigate to the photo that I'm using for training, which is image_2006. And I'll just choose Open. For this training, we're going to try to do a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is show crop. We're going to show our rotate. We're going to show layers and file info. And we're also going to show how to do adjustments for an overall photo correction. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and show you how to crop. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this. We start out, and when we open up a photo, we're going to have background, and we can do a right click and choose layer from background. The reason I want to do this, and I'll give it a name, is that it shows that my photo is separate from the canvas. So the photo or the image can move independently of the canvas, which is this thing behind. And we see that our thumbnail down here is also going to adjust to accommodate and show exactly what's going on with that layer. So the image can move, the image can change, we can apply effects to the image, and then we have a canvas, which is going to be kind of the window that we see the image through. So there's a few options for cropping. We could try first the rectangular marquee tool for selection, and we could just select what we want to see for that image, and then choose Image Crop. If we do that, it's going to delete everything else. We see the thumbnail is updated, and now the canvas has actually changed as well, since we only have the one image. If I don't like that, I can use our history tool, which is back here, and I can go back anywhere I need to within the history. So I'm going to go back to when I open it up, maybe to when I made the layer. So from here, there was that marquee tool. Again, that was marquee, and we had image, crop. That's one option. Now, if I go 5 tools down, I have the crop tool. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the crop tool, and it shows me a set of 9 different points for cropping. And the most important point is right here where it says delete cropped pixels. Usually if that's checked, I want to turn that off. And now I can click and drag, and it gives me a box kind of like the rule of thirds. So this is kind of cool. So I can practice rule of thirds, and I might have a pretty good photo here. I'm going to see about having our subject and maybe the microphone kind of on that rule of thirds line. And I don't really need the computer there, so I'm going to maybe just leave a hair of that. But I'm getting pretty close to that rule of thirds setting. That looks pretty good. So if I like that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark right up top, and it's going to edit my image. Now again, I have a photo here, and I chose not to delete cropped pixels. So if I click and drag, the rest of that photo is still there. Okay, I can then do the undo if I moved it, or go back in history. But I now have a cropped image using the crop tool that gave me that rule of thirds. So again, there was the select marquee, image, crop, and you see that right now it's grayed out because I don't have anything selected. I have to have that selected before I can use that crop tool. The other was the 5th tool down, crop tool, and then that gave us an option to crop within the selection. So once I have that photo cropped, it looks pretty good. That's where I would like to use that photo. I would like to try to take a turn at image rotation. So if I go image rotation, you have a couple basic ones like 90-degree clockwise, counterclockwise. So say your photo came in and it was upside down and I need to turn it around 180 degrees. You could also see that it's a mirror image that came in. You flip it horizontally. Ours was fine though, so I'm going to just go ahead and back that step up. And then you have the arbitrary image rotation. So image rotation, arbitrary, this is where you could type in a number. So if you wanted to say rotate it just 2 degrees counterclockwise, you could, and we'll see that changes the image. But I'm going to step that back. So that arbitrary is one way to rotate it. And the other is to do an edit free transform. Now before you can do free transform, you have to select the layer. So I'm selecting photo, and then I'm going to go edit free transform, and it brings up a bounding box around this photo so I can see exactly where the photo is. And if I move my cursor around the side, and that's with that move tool, I'll see my cursor turns into a little corner. It's kind of turning the corner, and now I can click and drag, and it tells me exactly how much of a degree different I'm going. Now I'm going to try to go, I'm going to say like 1.7. I'm looking at the background, and I'm just going to look at the lines on the wall. Try to find something that seems like it would be straight up and down. So I'm going to say about a 1.2 difference. That looks pretty good, and it's a little pixelated right now. Once I hit the check mark, that's going to make the change, and it's going to kind of refresh your photo so it looks good. So there we go, and now it's fixed in place, and that looks pretty straight. If I put my cursor there, that looks pretty good. I see that I've got a little transparency back here. That means that my photo is not quite on the canvas, so if I choose my move tool, I can then move my photo down so that it's still filling all of the canvas and I don't have that little line of nothing going on. If I try to export the photo and I have that line down there, it's going to show up as just this little line of white, which is not something we want to see. So again, 2 approaches to image rotation. We had image rotation, and we could type it in an arbitrary, or we had edit, free transform, which you could use the hotkey Control T or Command T on the Mac. That'll give you an option of bringing up this bounding box where then you can use the turn around in a corner to rotate your image. Hit that check mark when you're ready to go, and you're all set. So that was 2. We're going to take a look at layer adjustments. So the first thing we're going to do, it looks like it's a little overexposed right over here in the window, and our subject, we've got some shadows on her face. So I'm going to actually go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to choose Brightness Contrast, and I can give it a name, or I can just say Brightness Contrast Layer, sure. And right now I see this as white. It says it's applying it to the entire image, and I can change my brightness and contrast right here. I could try the auto and see what it does. Adobe's going to think for a second. And then we're going to be right in and ready to go with our photo. It's probably going to drop down the brightness a hair, and it brought up our contrast a little bit. So it looked okay. I could play around with this some, but we see the shadows on our subject are increasing quite a bit if our brightness is down some. But that feels okay. That feels okay for a photo. I've made some adjustments to brightness, some adjustments to the contrast. It looks all right. My photo, I took a picture with a window in the background. It's always going to be blown out here. We will tell you a little bit more about how to fix this in our next training, and that's going to be on kind of spot correction and photo illustration. But for right now, this is okay. We got it cropped to a rule of thirds set. We have our 4 focal points, and we've got 2 of them, our subject, this microphone with the label. So we're kind of identifying that this is our subject is Takia Thomas as she's working at KBIA. And we have a photo we feel pretty good about. So before we go to export this, we've got 2 things we need to do. There's File and File Info. So we're going to go to File, File Info, and we need to put in our information that's required on the content submission. So there's a specific naming convention that we're going to be using, and our author is going to be our name. We have our title is going to be photographer. And then this is going to be an AP style caption. And we type that out exactly. So these are just the templates, obviously, but we're going to go ahead and type out all the information following that template and then hit OK. So this gave us file info, and now we can go back and check it, and it would tell us all of that information as far as our caption, who the photographer is, and that's going to save onto your photo when you export it as a JPEG. Or when you do a save as JPEG. If you export as JPEG, it's going to take all that stuff out. So we don't want to do that. We want to use save as. So speaking of saving, let's go ahead and do a save as. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to save this as a Photoshop document. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say PS Edit. And I had one before. I said PS Edits, and then I put the date in there. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I have a Photoshop, and I'm going to just click OK through that. But now I have a Photoshop document that saves all the history, saves all the changes I've made. That's where I'm doing my edits. If I want to make an actual save of the photo, I would choose Save As JPEG, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. You see how up here I did in parentheses what I was trying to do on the edit, or the exact name that I was going to be using for our export up to Canvas. So I'm going to save it as the exact name that I would want for the Canvas, and I'll save that here. Now, before we save, though, there's one final thing in our submission that we need to take into account, and that's our image and image size. It says we need to have 6 inches on the longest side and at 200 ppi. So we're going to go to image size, and the first thing we're going to see is width and height, and it's in inches as our measurement and pixels per inch as our resolution. The resolution we're going to change to 200. You see how right now it says our image size is 3.52 megabytes. If we go to 200, it looks like it's pretty big right now. So we're going to go ahead and change our longest side to 6 inches. And resampling, I'm saying preserve details 2.0, and I did a reduced noise of 100%. So it's still going to be a pretty good picture, and it gives us a little look of what that's going to look like at all the different sizes. So we have from at 200%, it looks a little pixelated, but at 100%, it's looking pretty good. So that was, again, now I see my image size is going to be a little bit smaller, and at 200 ppi, and we've got 6 inches on our longest size. We resampled to preserve details 2.0 and reduce noise to 100%. So I'm going to click OK. We see it applies the change there. If at any point in time I need to zoom in on my photo to make an adjustment, I can do View, Zoom in with Control plus, or Zoom out with Control minus. I like just using the hotkey. So I can hotkey in and we can see that photo still looks pretty good. It's a little pixelated if I zoom in a ton, but that's a good image. And again, I can double check that image size under image size. It's 6 inches on the longest side, 200. We resampled, we hit OK. Now I can do my file save as and do my final JPEG and give it our naming convention and save. I'm just replacing that other one, but I'm going to get this box and it says, what type of JPEG do you want? I'm going to do quality 10, baseline standard. It actually gives us the size of the file. It says it's not going to be 3.5 megabytes. It's only going to be 376 kilobytes. Great. I'll say OK. Now I have that photo. There we are. And we see it's 364 kilobytes. Our original photo was 706, so we saved some space. And we cropped it. We see the differences between the two. We're all set.